Hello, and welcome to a special holiday edition of Starside Chat. My name is Aaron. With me, as always, is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Hey, we're back. Just in time for Christmas.
We're back. Been a little bit of time, but there's been so much game news, we had to make time for another episode.
Yeah, I want to get back into doing this more regularly, so...
I do too.
We'll hopefully 2021 will be a better year than we've had this year, so...
Yeah. We can only hope.
But let's talk about Cyberpunk.
It's what everybody's talking about, for better or worse. It's the topic of a lot of conversations. We both have it. Some of us have it multiple times. What do you think, Zach?
Well, so I guess maybe we should just, to get it out of the way, we'll mention the fact that it, as of right now, is so buggy on like base PS4 and Xbox One, like the previous gen consoles, that PlayStation and Sony and Microsoft have both offered refunds for the game, and Sony went as far as to pull the game from their like digital storefront, which I feel like that's fairly unprecedented. I can't remember a time when something like that has happened, and I think even Best Buy is offering refunds for the game. But as far as I understand, if you have a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X, you're probably fine. If you're running it on those consoles, it's mainly the base consoles that are having a hard time with it. And then if you have like the next gen consoles, so like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, you can play it, but it's not technically out for those consoles yet, so you're playing the PS4 version, which is really weird. And of course, CD Projekt Red has taken a lot of flack for like launching it on the base consoles if they kind of knew it was that bad. Like, because they've said from the beginning that they were targeting current gen consoles. So you have to assume, I guess, that over time it just became like a next gen game. And all the updates and changes they made to it must have just made it a nightmare to try to run on the old consoles. But at a certain point, if you're Sony and Microsoft, you go, it looks kind of bad on us, I guess, if we certified this thing that clearly just does not work on our consoles. So I guess maybe we have to offer refunds, but hopefully things get better. I don't know. We'll get into like what we're playing it on, but I'm not even gonna dare try to run this thing on my old PS4. I do know somebody who has it on Xbox One, but they heard all the news about how buggy it was, so they were afraid to start it, and now they're thinking about just accepting the refund, and maybe they'll like try it again later once some updates happen and they hear some like good word on it, or they just get one of the new consoles. But
yeah, so
tell me what you're playing it on, because you've avoided the whole PS4 fiasco.
It's true. I have been interested, and I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast a lot. I've been interested in Stadia for a long time. In August, I did a free 1-month trial to just like, I just like played around in Destiny for a while, just on my phone and on computer, and I liked it a lot. And that was when I had just okay internet. And then I moved, and now I have pretty good, like fairly decent internet. And so I was like, yeah, I'll just, the thing that cemented it was they were like, hey, anybody who buys Cyberpunk on Stadia, you just get a free Chromecast Ultra and a free controller, which is like $100 value. So I was like, why wouldn't I do this? So I've been playing it on Stadia. I've been swapping. I played a good amount on my computer with mouse and keyboard. And then when the controller and Chromecast got in, I played a little bit on my TV. And I'm not sure. I think I like it pretty equally. Some things are better with the controller and some things are better with mouse and keyboard.
How about driving in particular?
I actually don't mind. I played a lot of like GTA San Andreas, or no, maybe it was GTA 4 on PC back in the day. So I'm pretty used to driving around with a mouse and keyboard. But it definitely does feel nicer on controller.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've had a rough time with the mouse and keyboard controls driving. I had a similar problem with like Watchdogs Legion. Like driving was just not fun on mouse and keyboard. I've noticed it is better with a controller, but in general, like cars are not great to drive in this game. I think motorcycles are the way to go.
I actually haven't gotten a motorcycle yet. I saw one. So I guess let's get into this. How far are you? Because I am definitely not as far as you.
I'm into Act 2, but as I understand it, there's like Act 1, and then you start Act 2, and that's basically the rest of the game. So it's not like broken up into more acts beyond that. At least that's my understanding. So like I've just been sort of actually spent like an entire evening this week just sort of driving around completing random like side missions, because the game kind of breaks those up in a weird way. So they have like sort of your main storyline quests, but then they also have side missions that usually have like multiple stages to them, and they're a little bit more fleshed out. And then they have like jobs and gigs and that kind of thing that are more like go here, kill someone, or like take out a group of enemies and like loot this thing, and that's it. So they're like fairly not particularly interesting in terms of like story. They're just more or less things to do, and there some of those are like the cops will have like here's a crime scene, go here and like deal with it for us. So there's like varying degrees of side quest in the game, and some people, I think the game has taken some flack for that, just because of the fact that like when people talk about The Witcher 3, they're like even like the most minuscule side quest in that game is like somehow very interesting and has its own little story to tell. And so the fact that a lot of the sort of sub quests in this game are just sort of go take out some people here and it's basically over. So they've taken some flack for that. It doesn't bother me, because like I might have just done that anyway. Plus part of it is you get to sort of choose how you want to tackle them, because there are a lot of different ways. Like you can go in guns blazing, you can kind of do stealth. So I guess I should ask you, what has been your build or your approach?
I'm not as far as you. I basically got to my apartment, and then I did like the first story mission after that, and then I've just been kind of running around doing side missions. In general, I'm doing what I always do in like old Deus Ex games and whatnot. I'm going for like a stealthy hacker type. So I'm putting a lot of points into intelligence and cool, which has been good. I enjoy like sneaking up on people. I mean, this is probably pretty common, but I came upon just like a dead body, which kind of like led me up some stairs. And then just without even thinking about it, I took out like this whole cadre of people silently, which worked out really great for me. And it was great. The gunplay is not as great to me, but that's just maybe because I have like very base weapons right now. I know there's a ton of legendary or like iconic weapons you can get that make things a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
But for now, I'm going for like a stealth. The intelligence and cool are what I'm putting most of my stuff in. What about you?
I started out kind of similarly doing that. I've sort of switched gears. I don't know if that's going to hurt me later on. But yeah, I started out doing a lot of quick hacking. So you can kind of, the way that works is you like hold tab or like one of the shoulder buttons if you're on controller, and you can sort of mark enemies, but you can also like you unlock different quick hacks as you go, but you can like, there's one that makes it so that their like robotic eyes basically reboot so that they're blind, and then you can sneak up on them. Or there's one that like burns their synapses or something like that, and that actually does do damage to them. And so like early on in the game, I would just like sneak around, and it was sort of the Skyrim thing of like I would stay really far back and fire an arrow and it would hurt them, and they would be like, oh, somebody's nearby, let me just like wander around for a little bit, and then they'll be like they've sort of lost track of you, so you can fire off another arrow and then just like wait for them to like stop freaking out. And you just do that until they're dead. I was doing that with quick hacks, where I was just sort of like, I would stay back a ways and I would just like use one of the quick hacks that deals damage, and I would do that, and then I would like sort of walk away and let all my stuff recharge, because it requires a certain amount of RAM, which is represented in like the upper left hand corner of your screen, like how much you have of that. And then like once you let that all recharge, you can do it again. And so I would just like knock enemies out that way, so I didn't even have to shoot at them. But as I've continued playing the game, I've gotten really into like some of the crafting stuff, and I like using pistols. And there's a sequence that I won't tell you about because you haven't gotten there yet. That's like really cool, and you have this like super powerful pistol for like a short while. And I was like, I want to find that gun, and I want to use that like it's my main gun. So I'm gonna like put points into like my pistol skill and
reflexes.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called. So yeah, I've sort of switched gears. I still do a lot of hacking, so I've still been putting some points into like quick hacking and breaching and stuff like that, because you can breach terminals and like you'll get away with like a bunch of money and some resources that you can use for crafting. So those skills kind of do line up a little bit. So I've done some of that, and I've put points into pistols as well. So that's kind of been how I've played so far.
We touched on it a little bit, but you have purchased this in 2 different ways, and I'm interested to know, you've been playing it on Stadia as well as just on your PC locally installed, and I'm interested to hear which one you prefer.
So yeah, the reason I kind of did something stupid. I told you about this. So on the night that it was supposed to be like available to start playing, I was super excited about it. I went to launch it on Steam because that's where I had pre-ordered it. And of course, you couldn't play right away because you had to download a day one patch. But everyone in the world apparently was trying to download the day one patch all at the same time. And so Steam was basically overloaded and nobody could download it. And I like checked Twitter and everybody was complaining about it. And I was like, well, because I had also experienced some of Stadia fairly recently, because I got a free controller and Chromecast Ultra for being a YouTube Premium subscriber. So I had been playing some stuff on that just that way, and I was like, well, what I could do to play this game without having to download anything? And so I did buy it again on Stadia with the intention of like refunding my Steam copy. But I had already had it downloaded and I had tried to launch it, so I guess I can't refund it. But so anyway, I own it twice, and so for the first like night or two, I played on Stadia, and like you, I really like the option to like I can sit back on my couch with a controller and play this on my TV, or I can go to my computer and play it with a mouse and keyboard, and I sort of have the option to switch back and forth, which is pretty nice. But I think since then, I also had problems with another update after that was causing problems with Steam. So like I've seen the Stadia Twitter account and like people on the Stadia subreddit have been really leaning into like, this is a good sort of opportunity for Stadia to like be out there and say, are you having problems with it on base consoles, or are you having problems with downloads on PC? Like, here's an option where you don't have to deal with any of that. And so it has actually gotten some notoriety.
I think the Stadia Twitter account of like the day that Cyberpunk launched, I feel like it tweeted 5 or 6 times like, it's running great on Stadia, guys. Why don't you check it out?
Yeah, I saw a bunch of those. And I was like, this is actually like their moment right now to be like, hey, you guys mocked us for a long time, but now look at us. Like everybody, even like a bunch of games journalists that were normally like not into the idea of Stadia are having to like acknowledge, okay, this might actually be the best place to play it at the moment. And so for the first day or two when I actually started playing it on Steam, it was pretty rough. I have footage. It didn't record any audio for some reason, so I can't really do much with the footage, but you can see like...
You could put that Curb Your Enthusiasm music to it.
I could do that. I actually did clip some of it together just to make it easier to watch, but there's footage where I'm walking around, and this is in the PC version, and everybody is just like a textureless blob where like their walk animations aren't even happening. They're just like their feet are still and together, and they're just sort of sliding around across the floor. And it's like a good 20, 30 seconds or so before their textures actually load in. And you're like, oh, that's a person and they have a face and everything. And then like the door will open and everybody on the other side of the door is also blobs just like floating around. And it looks really weird. But then they did another update and that resolved a lot of the problems with that. It like didn't make them go away, but it helped a lot. So it went from like maybe 20 to 30 seconds of that to more of like 2 or 3 seconds. And so it was getting down to the point where I would walk into a room and I'm like, I think that maybe that person over there doesn't have textures. Let me run up to see. And then I would, as I got closer to them, their texture would load down. I'm like, okay, no, they're fine. But so that
Have you seen any glitches on Stadia?
No. Actually, I think for a short while in the early going, they also had a problem where textures were a little bit slow to load in, but not nearly as bad as it was on PC. But since then, things have pretty much resolved. I don't know if they did another update after that, but things have been pretty good on PC for now. So I'll say I think the Stadia version looks nice and runs well. It's a little softer than it is on my PC version. I'm on like medium settings. I don't have a 4K monitor. I'm not doing HDR. It's 1440p. It's medium settings, and I turned off pretty much all of those options. So they have like film grain and like chromatic aberration, whatever that is, and like depth of field and motion blur and lens flares. I turned all of that off, and it looks so much cleaner that I went ahead.
Yeah, I turned motion blur
I did
off.
all of that on the Stadia version as well, which I guess I would normally do that anyway on like any game. That's one of the first things I do when I go into settings is turn all of that garbage off. But yeah, it looks a lot cleaner and runs better when you don't have that stuff turned on. So that's a tip, I guess. But
which one are you going to continue to play on, I guess?
Well, so I put more time in on the PC version, so I'll probably keep going with that. But I will say it'll be nice here as Christmas comes up and I'm like driving across town to hang out with family. I'll be able to just throw my laptop in a bag and grab my controller and I can still play Cyberpunk. I'm just further behind on the Stadia version.
So I have two things that I am not super into about Stadia, but overall I've had a very good experience with it.
Okay.
One is, obviously I'm never going to be able to mod this game. Like a game on Steam, eventually you're going to be able to download and turn Keanu Reeves into like a Jaguar or something, or like a character from Skyrim. And like also there's going to be like, even though it's a beautiful looking game right now, like 5 years from now, there's probably going to be an HD textures pack that you can get that some guy in Finland made.
That's true.
Which is a bummer. Also, and I guess tied into this as well, because it's not installed locally, I don't really have a control over when patches get pushed out. Like I saw a couple days after it launched on consoles and whatnot, and on PC, they were like, I saw articles saying like CD Projekt Red is pushing out patch like 1.01 or get ready for this. And then like a couple days later, I saw the Stadia account say like, hey, that patch is live on Stadia now. But like, I guess it's just like anything. It's like phones. You're just like waiting for the operating system to update, but you don't really have any control over that. That's fine. I have never modded a game. I modded Skyrim one time just to like mess around with it. I'm not super bummed about that. The thing that I am super bummed about, my main gripe with Stadia, is that it does not suspend my gameplay at all, like on a console. Like,
yeah, I've been so
used to. Yeah, like I've been so used to. I played Uncharted and like God of War and Last of Us Part 2. I played all these like awesome single player games on PS4 where I could just like put it into rest mode, sit down, and then instantly be playing again in like 5 seconds. And I feel like there's no reason why Stadia can't do that, but for some reason, every time I sit down, I have to like launch it and go through the initial title screen and like click continue. And I'm not into that. I feel like there's no reason why that can't be a feature.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me that much because it's the same when I run any game on Steam, which is where I play the bulk of my games these days. But like, I mean, it's a good point because when you're playing a game on like PS4, like if you're used to playing games on console, like for sure it's nice to be able to just like hit the power button and you're just like back in where you left off immediately. And
Yeah.
especially since like
I don't think I saved once playing Last of Us Part 2.
Really?
Because it was just like it was a continuous process.
I'm way too scared to do that. I will always, like, before I hit the rest mode button, I will always save my game before I do that, just because I've had like issues with, you know, if a power outage happens or if like my Switch runs out of battery power, then I would lose progress. Yeah. I'm always a little too scared to do that, so I always save regardless, but it is definitely nice to just like pick up my Switch and hit the power button and just like exactly where I left off. I don't have to load anything. But
do you think that's a feature that's coming, or do you think they're just like that's not even on their radar?
I don't know. I wonder about that because it's like a big push on the next gen consoles to be able to suspend multiple games at once.
Yeah.
So you would think that they would have to respond in kind and be like, hey, like we've got your suspend feature ready to go. If you want to like play some Cyberpunk, just like you don't have to worry about saving. Just go back to the menu and switch to a different game. And then when you come back, you're not going to have to load through the main menu again. Like that would be nice, but couldn't say if that was on their radar or not.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, that's like the only bad thing about Stadia. Everything else has been great. I'm excited to play more. They just, I think a couple days ago, they said that now it'll work on iPads. So I was going to check it out playing on iPad in bed later today.
Recently they did launch on iOS. So there's now like an official Stadia app. I think before you could do it, you just had to like do it through the browser. But now there's like an actual Stadia app.
But overall, I have been loving Cyberpunk. I haven't had a lot of time to play it. This weekend, I'm really going to, dive in. And I played a lot today before we started recording. And I'm just like doing random side quests and trying to figure it doesn't really hold your hand for a lot of stuff. Like I have to like look up some things about like how hacking works and other random things. There's so much on the map that I'm just like, I don't know what this is.
That one like hacking thing that you do where there's like just a wall of numbers and like digits or whatever, and you have to like figure out which pattern to use. Like I had to look up a guide on how to do that because the in-game tutorial did not do anything for me in terms of like helping me figure out how that worked. Like I understand it now, but like the tutorial itself in-game was way too fast and I did not figure out what I was supposed
once
to
you
do.
Know what it is, it's pretty easy to parse, they do not tell you at all.
It's not that difficult to figure out once you know what you're doing, but like their tutorial's awful for that, so that was confusing. Which background did you choose?
Street kid.
Really? You picked the one I have not done because I picked Nomad on Stadia and I'm doing Corpo on my PC run.
Which one do you prefer?
They're both different. Well, first of all, I should say I love that picking that changes the way the game starts for you, because like in the Mass Effect games, like you pick one of like 3 options as well, but that's just sort of like for your own mind as you're playing through the game. You know where your guy came from. It doesn't change the way the game starts. But in Cyberpunk, like there's an intro mission that literally the game starts out differently depending on which of those 3 you choose. And then of course in dialogue, there can be like a dialogue option specifically to your background, which I thought was awesome. So it definitely does make a difference, more so than just like in your head, you know where your character came from. It literally has like gameplay implications for the way the rest of the game can play, which is pretty cool. I don't know. I think I would say so far I'm liking the Corpo one.
Really?
Yeah, which I did not think I would, because normally you're like down with the corporate fat cats or whatever, you know? But there's a part in the Corpo intro where you like get into this like flying car and you just sort of slowly fly around the city, and it was so cool. It was very Blade Runner 2049 where you know how it like has these establishing shots where you're just like seeing the character fly around in his car and you're seeing like the city, and it's got the moody music happening. Like it was all of that, and it was amazing. I was like, yes, this is what I wanted from Cyberpunk.
Well, we'll have to. It'll probably be an ongoing thing because I don't think either of us have even scratched the surface of what the game is. So I'm sure we'll talk more about it in episodes to come.
Well, yeah, I don't want to get too far into like the story because I'm further than you, and I don't want to spoil things for you. We should definitely do another conversation after you've had a chance to play more of the main story.
Well, should we get into other news?
Yeah.
I guess there isn't really other. Yeah, I guess there isn't. I mean, that's like Cyberpunk is the main news. So maybe What have you been playing?
Since it's been like a really long time since we've recorded, I just threw in to our notes like a bunch of different things that I have played since we last talked. So I don't know how much of this we really need to go over, but I guess recently, I don't know a lot about this game, but I've tried it out just because it's like a Stadia thing, and we're talking about Stadia, I guess. But there's this free, I guess if you're a pro subscriber, it's free to play a game called Outcasters that was made by the people that did, I think they worked on like multiplayer stuff for like the Gears franchise or whatever, but it is not at all what you would think from somebody who worked on multiplayer stuff for the Gears franchise. It's basically Stadia's answer to Fall Guys. It's sort of this cartoony, sort of top-down, goofy multiplayer type of thing. And Fall Guys and Outcast are, like, I never played Fall Guys, but I know you said that you didn't really like the control scheme, or you found it kind of difficult to work with.
It was a little chunky to control, yeah. And I mean, its time has come and gone, unfortunately, for them. Yeah. I don't think anyone is playing it anymore because it's all about Among Us now.
Yeah, I was going to say, Among Us kind of came along and ate its lunch a little bit. But
I think if it was easier to control, like part of it was just like learning how to manipulate the bad controls.
Yeah, which I think is partly
I think if it had more precise, like if it was like Mario level controls of controlling a 3D platforming game, I think that would be way more compelling. But
well, I was just going to say, like, to me, like, I don't know if you've played the Mario Party games and you've played those mini games. Like, half of the struggle of playing those mini games in Mario Party is just like contending with the controls because they're usually like, that's half the difficulty of it. And that feels a lot to me like the inspiration behind something like Fall Guys and even Outcasters.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And like Outcasters is more like, so it's sort of twin stick where like you're moving your cartoony character around with the left thumbstick, and with the right thumbstick, you'll pull the trigger to fire, and then you sort of guide this like projectile around, but you're doing that while you're moving. So it's part of the challenge is to like, wherever you turn, the projectile that you fired will start moving, and so you can kind of curve it around walls. And that becomes very challenging because you're trying to maneuver your character. You're trying to guide your shot, but you're also trying to like dodge enemy projectiles at the same time. So you're kind of watching three different things at once. And so that becomes the challenge. But I don't know. It's a solid little multiplayer game if you got a couple of people together. It'd be kind of fun to play, but it kind of like Fall Guys, I think it doesn't have like enough going to make you want to play it long term. So I know we've both been playing Yakuza Like a Dragon. I'm curious how far you are in that game.
It's been a little bit of time since I played it. What was the last thing that happened? The last thing that happened was Nanchan he like ran away because I guess spoilers for a little bit into Yakuza, but he ran off because his true nature was discovered, and then we realized that we could find him at that like bleach place. So I went there, and then there's a boss fight that I think I'm a little under-leveled for, and I tried to beat this guy like 2 times, and I was like, man, it's too hard. I need to like grind or something, and then I stopped playing. But I'm hoping to jump back on. Where are you?
I think you're a little further than me because I don't remember that happening. But the thing you're describing is, I think, the thing that I heard about that is that made me a little bit wary. First of all, I'm really enjoying the game. Like,
It's
I was
great.
into the story and the characters like immediately. It was sort of that turn-based combat that I was not super into from the beginning. I like a good turn-based combat system, but for some reason this one feels weird and not super satisfying to me just because like the characters sort of move around at random as you're playing,
Yeah.
so it's not like you can sort of who you're going to attack or like where they're going to be, and some of that's kind of weird and I don't love that necessarily. But also like combat, because it is like sort of a turn-based system, there's a bit of a presentation that goes along with it, which makes it last longer. And like normally I'm just trying to like beeline from point A to point B to do something, but like inevitably along the way you just run into like 8 different groups of enemies, and even though you're like vastly higher level than them, so you can basically one shot everybody, you still have to deal with this the whole way through, and so it's like constantly stopping you as you're
Yeah.
trying to play it, which I guess is common among like that type of like JRPG style. So that kind of bothered me at first, but I'm more or less over that just because I like the story and the characters so much. And I think sort of what I was talking about with Cyberpunk, where I think some of those side quests are not really interesting because they're not story driven at all. It's just like go here and kill some people. Yakuza's sub stories, I think is what they call them, have all been pretty interesting. Like they all have like
I agree. They vary widely in content.
yeah, they vary widely. Some of them are like mini games, but also like they're multi-stage stories where you'll like interact with somebody and you'll sort of see what's going on in their life, and then like after you've let some time pass or you've done some other sub stories, you can come back and interact with them again, and the story will have progressed a little bit. So it does these little stories outside of the main quest like really, really well. And I think Kasuga might be my favorite protagonist of any game I've played so far this year. Just because he's like such a like nice, likable guy that like cares about everybody and wants to help everyone out.
I want to keep playing it. It's the thing that's loaded up on my PS4 right now. So as discussed, I can just turn my PS4 on and instantly start playing it again. But obviously, I've got Cyberpunk going on right now. But I'm hoping to finish it up. I don't know how. I have not looked up like how many chapters there are, but I feel like I'm at least. I have no idea. I would hope that I'm at least halfway through. I don't know.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the thing that you were talking about where you reach this like boss battle that you are under leveled for. Like the thing I heard about the game, as you continue going, you do eventually run into like it's pretty easy to get through combat until you get to this like one point, and then you like hit this one brick wall of a boss battle that you can't get through, and you basically have to go because there's that underground area that you can go to that opens up at one point. And so I think ideally they want you to go there and just like grind through it and just like level up a whole bunch and gain a bunch of items and stuff like that. So I think you're supposed to do that, but I've also heard that that area doesn't have like a good exit. So like once you get down there, you're kind of stuck down there until you just like battle your way all the way through. So you need to have like a lot of items.
Underground segment was a little long for my taste.
It was. It definitely went on too long, I thought. But so I'm not super into the idea of getting to a point in the game where I basically have no alternative but to go back there and run through that all again to grind my characters to a higher level to be able to handle this boss, and to be stuck down there with no way of getting out without completing the entire thing all over again.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to that, but I would say that would be maybe the only thing that's putting me off of playing more Yakuza. But I really want to see where the story is going. So
I do too. Yeah, there's a lot of twists and turns.
Did you play Watchdogs Legion at all?
I never did. It was on my list, but I just didn't have time, and it's something that I wanted to do, but because I loved Watch Dogs 1 and 2. I love 2 a lot. And I think this is a game just from the outside in. It looks like something that has improved a lot on a lot of the like systems from Watch Dogs 2. But I know you've played it. Did you enjoy it? Did you beat it?
I did. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't play Watch Dogs 1 or 2, but I played this one, and like hacking in this game, like it's hard not to be a little bit underwhelmed by hacking in Cyberpunk after playing this game. Just because there's so much you can do with the hacking, and the spider bot. Basically, like at some point you learn that like you can hack a cargo drone, fly it down, climb on top of it, and like fly all around the city, and then like hover over like a place where there's like a mission, and just like throw down a spider bot and just like control the spider bot, go all the way around, like knocking out enemies and like hack the console that you're supposed to hack or whatever, and then just like exit the spider bot and then gain control of your cargo drone again and just fly away, and you've completed the mission. And so I did that for a long time, but I think the game figured out that like people were going to do it that way, so they eventually started having missions where you had to physically be at the spot to hack the console. So I don't know. I really enjoyed, because I also found a spy. I guess we should say, for people that don't know about Watchdogs Legion, the interesting new thing about it is the whole play as anyone off the street. Just like every NPC that you see in the world, you can talk to and try to recruit them. And once you do that, you can switch to them and play as them. And so there's not a main central character. There's just like anybody off the street you can play as, and they each may have like a different kit and different abilities, different weapons. And then there's permadeath. So if you get into a mission where there's a lot of gunfights and a lot of shooting, that character might die. And so it kind of changes the way you end up playing the game a lot, because you become attached to the characters that you play as after a while. You're like, I've played multiple missions with this character. I like the voice actor. I like their personality. I like their kit. And it's a big bummer to like start losing characters because they die because you're not careful enough. So yeah, I really liked that about it. I think there is a lot more they could do with that system. This feels very much like a Gen 1 version of that, which is why I'm very excited about what they do with the next Watch Dogs. Because I think this whole like play as anyone off the street, it needs to be like a core function of what the Watch Dogs franchise is from here on out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's that interesting and that cool. And nobody else is really doing it, I don't think. At least not that I can think of. I know they took some flack because they're like not having a strong central lead. It makes it like you can tell that's missing a little bit in the story, and you can tell that like it's a little bit weird to have like just some random different person off the street and like inserted into every new like cutscene that happens, which I can agree with. Like that is a little bit weird, but it's also cool in pretty much every other way, which is why, again, I think there's more they can do with that system, and I want to see how it evolves over like multiple games. But I've never been to London before, so that was another cool thing, to just be able to explore London and see all the sights and everything. I'm a big fan when games like GTA or Watch Dogs will like build a pretty accurate representation of like a real world city for you to explore. That's a thing I really like in games. So
Ubisoft is great at that. Didn't they like their version of the Notre Dame Cathedral is what's being used to rebuild it after that fire?
Was it? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I think like the Notre Dame Cathedral like burst into flames. I don't know what. I didn't really read into it, but they're really bummed about it. And then Ubisoft was like, "Hey, we took like all these insane like imagings of all the architecture for our game, our Assassin's Creed game. Do you guys like want this? And you can perfectly recreate it." And they were like, "Oh yeah, that would be great."
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I hadn't heard that. I knew about the fire, but I had not heard that they were using Ubisoft's assets to rebuild the thing. That's cool. But no, the other weird thing mentioning Ubisoft is they essentially released 3 of their very Ubisoft style open world games that are like massive and very long within like several weeks of each other between Watchdogs Legion, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Immortals Phoenix Rising. And I was just like, that's an awful lot. So like I do have Assassin's Creed Valhalla on Stadia because I ended up getting that. So when I got my first free Stadia Premier Edition or whatever it's called, I was like, I need something to play on it. And so I got Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But I had just finished Watchdogs Legion, so I was like, do I really want to play another big open world Ubisoft thing? But I don't know. I don't know about you, but I'm not super into the idea of Immortals Phoenix Rising, but...
No, it does not. It has not hit my... Like, that first trailer, when we didn't know anything about it and there wasn't any, like, UI on the screen, when it was called Gods and Monsters.
Yeah.
That was interesting to me, but I don't know. It's not... I don't know why, but it's not interesting to me now.
I think a big part of it is the fact that it launched right in the middle of everything.
That could be, yeah.
If it had come out like maybe over the summer when there wasn't as much to play, I might have been more willing to give it a shot. But yeah, I don't know. Plus, it's very heavily inspired by Breath of the Wild. I'm like, I played that game already, and I'll play the next Breath of the Wild, but I don't need to play something that's not it, but is like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We got Hades. We've both played Hades. I don't know if you
Hades is really good. I started beating it, and I was very into it, and then I kind of fell off of it. But I want to get back into it because that story is also super interesting to me, and that's another one where you can just like pick it up and play it for 15 minutes, and then just like suspend the game and come back. But
yeah, we should acknowledge how crazy it is that like I don't like roguelike or roguelite games because I get disappointed when I'm like, okay, I've spent like half hour 45 minutes in this game and now I've died and I have to start all over again. But Hades is so good at rewarding you for the time you do put in, and the story continues to progress, and the characters, you continue to sort of evolve those relationships and learn more about the characters as you go, regardless of whether you're succeeding or failing. So it's maybe the first roguelite that has really made me want to continue playing after having like tried it and failed a few times. So that's pretty big for me, and a big reason why I completely understand why a lot of people are saying it's like their game of the year.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of... I had a lot of fun playing that. A lot of good games came out this year. I don't know what I put the most time into. I played Hades for weeks and like logged a ton of hours on it. So it's
I was
hard
gonna
to say.
I don't know if we want to do like another podcast in like a week or two where we go over like our top games of the year, but
I think we should do that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we'll save that conversation. Are you ready to wrap it up and get out of here and play more Cyberpunk?
I mean, yeah, this is maybe our shortest episode, but
well,
we both have...
We were much more focused this time. We didn't have a lot of news to talk about, so...
I do have a lot more Cyberpunk to play, but I also have some parting wisdom for us, Zach.
Okay, go for it.
I actually don't. I'm trying to think of some now.
I was about to ask you, so I thought you would have something ready.
You know, I got that Popeye's chicken sandwich that everyone was so into, like, last year.
Was it good?
It was actually super good.
Is it like is it a spicy chicken sandwich?
I got the spicy variant. You know, now that I am living closer into Chicago, I have access to a lot more stuff. Raising Cane's is something that I enjoy. Meatheads is a burger place I just went to that was pretty good. There's a lot of restaurants around, and I am partaking of them all. And I have to say, it's great. I love fast food. That's my wisdom.
I was going to say, I don't eat a lot of fast food, but the one thing I have gotten into recently is I will make rice and I'll throw some chicken in the oven, and then you can get these in the Asian section of your grocery store. You can find like these bottles of like sauce. They're like Indian
I've seen those.
Food style sauce. Like I've gotten what is the one I'm thinking of?
Tikka masala?
Yeah, tikka masala and also butter chicken. And so I'll just like put a bunch of that on there, and it is pretty amazing. And I can make like at least 2 or 3 helpings worth in one go, and then I've got like lunch and dinner the next day, and I'm good to go.
What kind of rice do you usually use?
Jasmine, I think.
Ooh, good choice.
It's pretty good stuff. I do enjoy it.
Food
is good. I like food.
Food is good.
I think that's Aaron's parting wisdom. Food is good. You should have food now and then.
It's got to be said. All right, well, join us in possibly next week or the week after. Probably not next week.
Yeah, I was going to say
next week is Christmas.
Next week is Christmas, so I don't know if we'll get around to it unless we decide to record earlier. But
who can say? The following week, perhaps we will have a end of year discussion where we do some rankings, because I definitely have some rankings.
I was going to say, I've been thinking about it for a while. I've been trying to put a list together, so I'm pretty excited to go over that.
All right. We will see you next time.
Catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.